Lindy here. Welcome to Life After Lupus. Sunday night story time, just sharing a brief chapter, another chapter in my book called Life After Lupus, What's Your Autoimmune Name? I share my story for anyone who just needs to listen to the possibility or open up the possibility of health and healing, even inside of a chronic illness. We're going to be reading a chapter tonight where you'll hear that piece where I just didn't give up. I just didn't want to believe that forever I would be sick. And in fact, I was not. And I'm very grateful for that. So I share that again to open up the possibility that there is healing, there is wellness, health and wellness, even with an autoimmune diagnosis. And I not just had one, but I had a couple of them. So we have talked about the fact that I started with I was going to doctors and they would give me medicine and I would be allergic to the medicine. So then I started down the natural way and I started talking to a naturopathic physician and was treated by him for about 90 days until I met the MD, the medical doctor, who would then truly facilitate this healing process in me. And I'm very, very thankful, very grateful that he was my miracle blessing, that God would align me with someone who would take me to that final healing place. And it took a long time, about 3 years, but it did happen. And so tonight we're going to read a chapter that starts with conclusive diagnosis and symptoms. So there were many difficult times during those 3 years. I experienced so many symptoms that were so scary and had to be dealt with day by day. It seemed like every morning I woke up with something new, which was crazy. Over time, I asked the doctor about the blood work that was taken so frequently in order to monitor all my conditions. At the first onset of illness, it's natural to want to put a name to a disease. It somehow makes it easier for us to identify ourselves with a name that would then tend to identify who we are for the rest of our lives. We just want to know what it is. We want to get a name. And after all of the trouble that I went through, the difficulties I went through, I now know it doesn't matter what it's called. If we're not well, we're not well. But the quest to get well is what's important. After days and months that led to years of severe health issues, I asked the doctor if he had ever discovered what the name of my disease was called. He said that the cells from the blood test had come back fluorescent, which meant that it was conclusively lupus. This was probably a year and a half after he started treating me. I went to see him all the time, but this one day I thought, was there ever a diagnosis? What do I have here? It seemed like when I started appointments with him, my desire to have a name, my need to have a name sort of dissipated, which was really, really good. All the other doctors I went to, I just wanted to figure out what on earth was wrong. Why was, having these symptoms, and tell me what it is so I can know what it is. Anyway, I was also diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which he said was a good thing. However, it didn't seem to be too good to me to have to battle two illnesses. However, the two disorders paired together meant that I probably wouldn't have the type of lupus that would be life-threatening. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for joining. Yay. But so the two disorders together wouldn't mean that I would not have the kind of lupus that would be super life-threatening. However, it would mean that I'd feel horrible most every day with these diseases, and he wasn't wrong. I couldn't imagine feeling any worse than I had been feeling. It was like having the flu day after day with no hope of recovering from it. Even so, my mind never did wrap around the possibility that I would live like this forever. I truly did not believe that I would be sick forever. I couldn't wrap my head around that. I was so sick and I was so young. So I just kept moving forward. What can I do to feel better? What can I do to feel well? The end game, it was like the end game goal. And every day I did things so that my body would start healing. I fought and fought to get well, and I kept that goal in mind with everything that I did. Over the 3 years I battled these illnesses. There were times I wasn't sure that continuing to live in the constant pain was worth it. Even though I didn't see myself as being sick for the rest of my life, the day after day struggle became overwhelming. It truly did. And I don't, as a young person like that, in 25 years or so ago, we didn't think about being depressed. But waking up sick every single day and battling what I battled, I think that depression set in. Because there were days that I had wished lupus would just be terminal, that it could just finally end. I was just in so much pain all the time. Would there be a day I would find relief and leave this world? Pain tormented every part of my body, and severe fatigue plagued me every moment of every day. It may be a little too TMI, but I remember waking up one morning completely overcome with fatigue and thinking, I wonder if I should actually get up and go to the bathroom, or if it would be okay to just wet the bed. Now, this is a full-on adult, and this was my thought. I remember vividly thinking this because I just couldn't hardly move. I eventually gave in to better judgment because it would have been too difficult to clean up the mess, so I headed to the bathroom. But the fatigue, the muscle pain, headaches, and stomach distress were constant in my everyday life. It was always there to accompany me into the day and the end of the day as well. In my waking, I would only look forward to the moment I could climb back into bed when the day was over. It was a grim experience at the very least. And I mean, it truly was. And I woke up just as tired as I went to bed the night before. Couldn't imagine doing the day as tired as I was every day. But somehow I pushed through. I felt constant fear associated with being as ill as I was. I often wondered if I would wake up in the morning. Many nights I went to bed so sick that I thought it was a real possibility I wouldn't. Much to my surprise, each morning would appear, and I would dread taking on one more day. Never wake up and think, I have to do this today. That's pretty much the way every day was for me for those 3 years. I was also frightened when new symptoms appeared. How would we deal with this new thing? Are there more to come? Dreading the dread was a pretty normal feeling during this time. In fact, there wasn't much I didn't dread. There were just different levels of it, and always an accompanying fear. I think when we lose control, like I had no control over what my body was doing, that fear was just tremendous. I mean, I didn't know what was coming next. I would be talking, if you listened to previous ones, I talked to my aunt all the time. She was sort of my ally because my cousin, her daughter, was being diagnosed at the same time with lupus as I was. So we would talk to each other every day and compare notes with one another. And yes, Stacy felt this way, and then I felt this way. And we would just compare all those things and try and figure it out. And she had told me one time, and forgive me, my dog is barking. He does that sometime. Cooper is his name. Well, she told me that what she was reading about lupus is that you kind of have maybe 8 to 10 symptoms, and then you don't get any more than that. Well, I certainly had those 8 to 10, and they came one at a time, and they were scary, all of them, like all of them. All of them seemed like, oh, this could be it. This could be the thing that would take me. God had different plans, and I'm thankful for that. But I share my story again so that it can open up the possibility, if you listen now or after, that you may think, maybe there is healing. We don't have to live with chronic illness. If we do the right things, our bodies heal. Just like we get a scrape on our arm, our hand, somewhere on our body, it heals. And I'm thankful for that. We have that expectation. We don't even think anything different. If it gets really deep, we go get stitches, and then it still heals. Our bodies are meant to heal. God gave us wonderful healing bodies. That's what they're supposed to do. And they'll heal on the inside if we do the right things. It was a long journey back for me, but cell by cell, day by day, all of my cells were being renewed, made new. It's a big journey in terms of health and wellness. It took physically doing a lot of things. It took spiritually doing things. I would meditate. I would pray. I would read books that would take me one step further, and every single piece of it I needed to be who I am today. So we get these journeys. We have the opportunity to walk above the obstacles, to deal with those obstacles and move and trust God through all of them to help us make it through those times and learn so we can help other people. At the time, we can't imagine helping anybody. But then, on the other side of these difficulties and obstacles that we have in our lives, we're able to minister to someone else and help them. So, with that, I thank you for being here. There is Life After Lupus. There is Life After Autoimmune. We handle the foods we're putting inside of us, what we're putting in our heads, and the toxins that are around us, the chemicals. That was huge for me, making sure that I had things that wouldn't further toxify my body, getting the chemicals out of our home. That's another whole big thing. And it sounds hard, but I found some really simple ways, some very, very simple solutions to make these things possible. And I look forward to sharing those throughout this journey, this Sunday night story time. So thank you for cozying up with me on this Sunday night. I know it's cold in Denver. We woke up to -10 today, which like never happens. Not that I didn't grow up that way, because in North Dakota, I think it was -30 today, and those are the days I remember. So -10 was doable, kinda. Looking forward to tomorrow when we're back up into the 20s again. But wherever you are, thank you for joining me here tonight and cozying up as we read one more chapter in Life After Lupus, What's Your Autoimmune Name? Thanks again.